Okay, here we go. Let's get this stuff started. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Overwatch, and welcome to another episode of Coaching the Many. This time, we're going to be talking all about a map again, just to vary things up, and just because we got a game with like a whole bunch of different DPS-y heroes, and not only DPS, actually, you've got some DPS, some tanking in there, so I felt it was a good opportunity to talk about the map as a whole, alongside just coaching this general sort of video. The rating is about 2.6k, apparently, so sort of low platinum, I guess. Though from what I remember, like if we get a view of the team, which I think we do at some point, is they start off chatting, which is always a little bit nice. Well, we had a split second. I need to be faster on the button apparently just to see what the team looks like, but it's always deceptive at this rank. This actually annoys me. Oh god. Luckily I can go back frame by frame. We can isolate this and have a look at the team lineup, because that seems like a good place to start. Let's clear the text on the screen. Let's make sure Twitch chat isn't in the middle of the screen so I can see Twitch chat while it's going. There we go, and now we can have a look at this team lineup. So, let's get started with the team lineup, and then let's get started with how it relates to Hollywood. So first things first, Hollywood is mostly oriented around a single choke point. It's your very, very standard Overwatch capture point. You can think of a lot of Overwatch capture points as basically having a single choke with usually a single pathway along the side of them. So, you know, have Hanamura with the gate, and then there's a hole that you can go through, although you can always try and go up and over. You can do Eichenwald now, single gate, hole alongside it. Hollywood's the same. You've got the single gate, and then you've got like the, what I call the security room to go through. And you can always go through that path. So it's your very standard basic. I mean, King's Row's the same, single gateway, you've got the cinema to go through. Like, very simple pattern in Overwatch, right? So, okay, how does that change how we approach things? Well, first things first, Hollywood is a map that is very oriented around high ground. So, Pharmacy actually makes me extremely pleased on this map. Basically, you have a lot of angles to poke around with on the Pharah, and then it transitions very nicely into the second phase as well. I think Pharah and Mercy are extremely good on Hollywood. You don't have too much cover, so once you go in, you're generally sort of stuck in, unless you're bouncing literally across the top of the villa. I've watched Valkyrie do this quite a lot, where he just floats around on top of the sort of the building itself that you're fighting over. You can like slide around on the roofs a little bit and then just use your rockets to blast around. The thing we're doing that is Mercy can't follow you. That's more of a defensive tactic as well, but it's pretty strong. Soldier 76 is actually very good on this map as well. You notice that we have triple DPS and a single tank. Widowmaker I actually do quite like on first point. Widowmaker actually I think works pretty well until third point, and even then the later part of third point, she can also work pretty well. Like, Widowmaker is actually pretty strong on this map. When the Widowmaker was at its height, it was Hollywood and Numbani that really sort of stuck out, where the Widowmaker mains were quite strong, and Gibraltar as well. So those three maps were generally really, really good for Widowmakers. So Widow I don't mind too much. That said, Widow can sort of get very slow, get very bogged down at the start of these matches. So hoping that, you know, if Widowmaker doesn't get any picks, that she swaps off, because otherwise the enemy team can usually just hold up, sort of stall. Reaper's going to be interesting. I struggle to think that Reaper's ever going to really close the gap here, purely because you are moving into an enemy team that's usually on high ground or far back enough to where they can see him coming. The best option for Reaper will be to go around the house and then try and get round the backside like that, but it's still going to struggle. So, not too optimistic on the Reaper. Lucy, I would say, is less mandatory than you would expect on this map. I'd actually say that the Zen Mercy works quite nicely. The reason why I say Lucio isn't quite as mandatory is you aren't actually looking usually to engage directly on the enemy team on your first pushes, but you are actually instead looking to push. You can either just push straight in, or you can take the route where you take the high ground over, and you can actually fight from up here, which is actually extremely strong. But because we lack a Soldier 76, this could be a little bit dubious. If I was this team, I would be looking to hope that something like this happens, where you get just an extremely quick pick. It seems like the Torbjorn was perhaps being a little bit greedy, maybe trying to poke out and didn't expect the enemy team to have anything to counter that. As such, Widowmaker gets an extremely fast pick on the Torbjorn and could start blowing open the defenses. What makes it even nicer is that if they start defending from here, Widowmaker's actually extremely good, and this is the reason, like, let's start highlighting aspects of Hollywood. Like, I remember someone asking, you know, why don't you defend up here? The sight lines up here, especially you're going against a Widowmaker, are extremely long, so it's very difficult to hold up here, very difficult to hold, like, completely in the choke point. You usually want to be holding around here, and then have a bunch of people sort of stood on top of the cafe, where they can sort of be nice and safe. So if we go up and over, we spot a turret. Because the Toby's dead, we can get rid of that, and honestly I wouldn't mind us just focusing on poking that off and then dealing with this Winston in the back line. It's a shame that the Widowmaker got jumped. No one really seems to have reacted to the Winston, which is a complete shame, as that would have been Reaper's job for the peel. It's actually one thing we'll talk about a lot later, which is peeling for people and peeling for Widowmaker. The Reaper should have really been there to just help deal with that, and wasn't. Feels bad, man. Because that's a big opportunity for that Reaper to get something done. Looks like we're still doing a good job though, starting to take control of this high ground. If you can get D.Va out in the mech, then fine. If not, I wouldn't mind us just seeing a shift just to get rid of this nice and quickly. Otherwise, if we don't get rid of this, it's going to shoot us out the sky and going to be a complete pain in the ass. So get rid of this, then get rid of this, I would say. Kill the D.Va. And onto the Tourbillon. Nice.
Are you forming a team for contesters?
For contesters, probably not more Teamer, 1993. We tried forming one for Overwatch contenders, but it didn't work out. We're just all too busy. Maybe at another time we can try and get Team Clickbait up and running, like, and just make a proper go of it. I would be fully on board for doing that, but the dreams of us going pro in Overwatch, us YouTuber numpties, us boosted YouTubers, just died, unfortunately. That was a nice attack though. It was a good job by the Widowmaker to get a quick pick to put the enemy team on the back foot. A bit unfortunate by the Reaper, but it was a nice first point take. I'd also say that, you know, you guys are playing into something of an atypical defense. So what do I mean by atypical defense? Well, let's look at this high ground area here. We'll probably talk about this again when we are actually defending, because it is kind of important. But you would usually see Hollywood defenses operate on a kind of a two-tier system, right? So let me set this back sort of quite far, and then I'll just talk about this two-tier system for defense, because it's kind of an important and pretty cool concept in my mind. And then let's mute this so it's not distracting. So what do I mean by two-tier defense? Well, I mean that the defensive lines are basically operating in two separate ways. So, click here. Come on, Farah. This is why Farahs are so useful, by the way. You get nice overhead views. So when she jumps up, if you look slightly to the right at some point, then we'll pause it, and then we'll start talking more about exactly where the two-tier defense works. So normally you have your first tier of defense, which is usually like your Reinhardt and one or two other bits and pieces, sort of working down here. They can be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more fluid in their positioning, for example, but they're usually relatively close to this corner. The second tier of defense is usually up here where this Tourbillon's trying to set up at the moment, and he's just trying to sort of get into position and make himself at home. But you usually have something like an Anna and a Soldier 76 up there. I really like having that combo up there because it's extremely hard to actually get the jump on it. The best part about that is that if the enemy team tries to dive it, they're basically diving to a very closed environment. I'm sure the camera will tilt up at some point. Just get through this. That'll do. I guess Farah's kind of in the way, but you get the idea. So, in this area, like if a Winston jumps in here, for example, it's very easy to get a lot of focused DPS on him. Even if a Genji and Tracer jump in there, it's still pretty easy to like get everything in there, either hit with an anti-heal grenade or hit with soldier rockets or just bursted down by most of the team. So what's quite nice is that when they do that, Anna throws down a heal grenade. As long as she hits Anna and the Soldier 76, both of them can stay in the biotic field, stay nice and safe. If they do need to get an emergency heal, they can drop onto the point and then go and bounce to the health pack over here. Just get a little bit of extra healing as well if they need it. The other support can see them and also provide some healing if necessary. And so this is like a very, very strong defensive position. There is another two-tier defensive lineup using Orisa and Tourbillon, where you can set the Tourbillon turret up in the bushes back here. I imagine is where this Tourbillon would want to set up, but he got his shit pushed in basically immediately by the Widowmaker, so couldn't do that. But you can set up the Tourbillon back here and then have an Orisa sort of shield that while you have your other half of the team a little bit far forward. This team was operating more on a sort of mobile defense because they have the Farah to sort of play around with and trying to defend using a pharmacy, but I still say that they're a little bit too eager to try and contest this high ground and sort of got punished for it. So what ended up happening is sort of everyone just sort of starts getting isolated and picked apart. It looks like Reaper managed to sneak into the backline as well, gets onto the Mercy, and then once you get a Reaper in a position like over here where he starts getting close, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Reaper's a very, very one-note character, and he does one thing, but he does that one thing extremely well. When he gets onto a point and just starts hitting people at close range, he will generally start winning those fights and cleaning up pretty thoroughly. So, let's talk about Phase 2. And the Phase 1 to Phase 2 transition is actually extremely important in this. It's more important for the defenders to do it right, and it looks like these guys are partially doing it right, but partially sort of messing up a little bit. With Infrasight, we can actually see quite nicely this is really, really helpful for me as sort of the coach to be able to see where the enemy team is positioning. Normally, you are trying to sort of get as much onto the high ground as possible. The best idea is to try and get Soldier 76, Reinhardt, and probably one support up there. And then you can just shoot down. They can put tons and tons of pressure from the high ground. Meanwhile, you can have something like D.Va and then the pharmacy, for example, bouncing around. So let's say the enemy team is running pretty much similar to as they are. They got the Reinhardt, and let's say they have a soldier and an Ana. You put those guys on the high ground. If they manage to get there in time, you've got to understand how to concede the first point, because you've got to take the annoying as fuck lifts or elevators in the back here to try and get to the high ground. When you establish that, then you're going to have those three on the high ground. Soldier 76 is very powerful from up there. He has support to help him if stuff dives on him. Again, you just put the healing grenade down. You should be okay. And then you can have a pharmacy and a D.Va bouncing up and down from the high ground, bouncing and moving all around, all over the place, getting a shitload of work done. So there's a lot of options available for defending this second part of the map. And it's a really, really powerful thing to do, because Tactical Visor from coming up from up here is very, very hard to deal with. You'll usually see teams start to contest around this first corner. So the first fight will usually happen here, and Hollywood is a little bit unique in that you generally see 3 fights in phase 2 if it's sort of slowed down at least, or it's not a complete stomp. You usually have a fight around here. You'll have a fight more over to where the jail is, or where the bank is, I guess, over sort of in this area, and then you'll have a fight pretty much at the end of the point. So you have these 3 opportunities, and defending here gives you that second opportunity, usually to come out the spawn doors over here, contest here, and then you'll have a final chance maybe to contest on this final point. Or this final part, I suppose. At the hotel, sorry, the hotel area. And the fact that they're all hiding away, this means that as the Farah, and I quite like this by this player, manages to instantly go and take the high ground, we can spot out the turret as well, we can just clean that up, makes our life nice and easy. We do want to be getting a bit away from where we were, just because we don't want our Mercy dying to the Winston, so if we just peel away and make sure that the Winston can't just tickle our Mercy's bum constantly, that's always nice. But it looks like this is going pretty one-sidedly at the moment. And we are just taking complete control. The enemy team doesn't set up appropriately on the second point, and they're getting staggered and sort of getting sloppy. This D.Va should not be even remotely engaging. She just should have just tried to peel out the moment a lot of people started going down, because right now she's just going to die and not going to be a part of the second fight, basically, which is going to free up the Farah, it's going to free up the Reaper, it's going to free up a lot going on here. We drop down slow, we peel back, nice decision, correct thing to do. We should be dropping down a bit lower. And don't be afraid to press that I need healing button, probably 1 or 2 more, there we go. 1 or 2 more times, just to make sure the Zenyatta on the Mercy notices. Now that we have supports, we can go in again, and because the D.Va's gone, we can get away with doing this. There's nothing stopping us just hunting down these targets, getting a couple of fresh kills, so I'm more than fine with us spending our time just hunting this down. We can leave the Zenyatta, the Reaper, the Reinhardt to contest on the point, because they are just a lot better at doing that, and we're a lot better at roaming around. Honestly, the Reaper should probably be staying on the payload here, and just helping contest it, and helping fight pretty much directly on the point. They popped everything. Fortunately, we didn't. There was an opportunity there, perhaps, to get a cheeky barrage in, maybe. Let's have a look. I just want to double check. So I'm fine with us not doing it here, because if we did it here, the Ana will probably just sleep Dada, so that we probably would have been able to kill the Ana. We probably still wouldn't have got the Mercy, maybe, if we just dropped a barrage there. So I'm fine with us doing just a simple hunt there. A bit of a shame that we didn't get the kill there, though. That is a kind of a huge problem. And then this is sort of part of the problem of having the Reaper roaming around, is that the D.Va manages to just set up back on the point. That said, I would say that there's an opportunity maybe around here to have got the barrage off. So if you think about what's just happened, Reaper's ulted. So now think about what this defense matrix, what's going on with this defense matrix. Okay, this D.Va has pretty much no good decisions anymore, so I would have been probably tempted to just try and get rid of this, and then just probably peeled down and killed this. So draw a line basically like this with the barrage. Kill the soldier so he can't kill you, and then just blow up the remainders of the D.Va. If D.Va turns up to block you, then she gets killed by the Death Blossom. If she stays pointing down, then she gets killed by the barrage. There's no good decisions here for D.Va, so you can end up winning. To see the Mercy there as well, might actually want to start there instead, but honestly I would actually say you're probably fine just doing this, because she's already used her Resurrect. Her value is pretty much 0 against burst damage, so you know she's not going to stop you killing people through barrage. Basically she can't heal through that, so you can just take your time, kill these two, kill this, kill the Mei, and win off the back of that. I'd say in general barrage is an ultimate that you want to use relatively aggressively. It builds pretty quickly, especially on a pharmacy lineup. And even just getting 1 or 2 people I think is usually valuable enough. Unless you have like a Graviton Surge, then of course you want to be considering that. But because we only really have Reinhardt to combo with, I wouldn't be afraid to use it too aggressively. This is also maybe where like the Widowmaker should consider changing. Just adapting her play a little bit. Although she's doing like a lot of good work, and I'd honestly say like this is probably less that the Widowmaker needs to change and more that the Reaper just needs to stay near the Widow. That's actually huge value. Widow got 2 picks and Mercy's had to res for it. That's insane value. Fine with this. I'd be fine with this barrage if we got the Mercy. I don't think starting on the Mei is a good idea. If the Mei has any kind of reaction, she's just going to ice block. But honestly, this entire push seems to be jumping the gun slightly. Like we're committing to a fight a little bit too aggressively that we don't need to. So we have an advantage in that they've burned an important combat ultimate before they were sort of ready for doing it. And then we sort of get into this good position where the enemy team's going to have a hard time getting rid of us, and Reaper goes in for some reason. And I think this is probably why we engage, because Reaper's just jumped in. Lag, buffering, lag. We check. That is apparently me. What the fuck? Okay, it's apparently everyone. Everyone is having internet issues. It looks like it's bouncing back. Well, I can even show you guys the fun process of me watching this. Enjoy some recursion, guys. I don't think there's anything on this. So this number needs to be 6k. It looks like it just dropped temporarily, and now it should be back. Basically, just refresh if you're having issues, and you should be okay again. So let me type in chat, just refresh if having issues. Should be okay now. Just do make sure you refresh, because if you have been buffering, then basically you'll all be at different times on the VOD due to how Twitch encodes stuff. So even if you don't need to think, you think, oh yeah, no, it's fine now, I don't need to refresh, just refresh anyway, it doesn't hurt. You shouldn't have an advert playing anyway, because I don't think adverts even play on my goddamn channel. I don't get fucking ad revenue, that's for sure. There's some behind the scenes info for you. So I think this is more Reaper's fault of jumping the gun. Where he's gone in super aggressive, we've gone in trying to sort of bail him out, and then we just end up paying the price for it. What would have been nicer is just sort of biding our time a little bit more, waiting for the Reinhardt to get in, waiting for waiting for our Reinhardt to get in there, for a proper fight to begin, and then going from there. We make a decision to change up. I don't think we... I'm curious as to this decision. I think we are doing okay on the Pharah. It looks like we consider McCree, which wouldn't be too bad for peeling, for the Widowmaker dealing a little bit with the Monkey, and dealing with the Mei especially as well. Looks like the team's winning anyway once the Reinhardt arrives. I think Reinhardt might have shadowed or something, who knows. Because Reaper's just managed to clean everything absolutely up, which is ridiculous. But hey, again, like I said, Reaper's very good at one thing, and when he does that one thing, it works pretty nicely. Our gold and duo trolling us game 4 in a row, apparently. We should have been able to catch that. So that's an interesting thing with Maze. Actually, if you just threw it in... No, where did you throw it? But if you defense metrics the second you hear that, you can usually catch it. Like, we're just a smidge too slow. It's a bit of a shame, but honestly, like, this is still value for us. I've talked about it before, but I'll mention it again just very quickly. The idea of ultimate economy and ultimate advantage. With ultimate, you are trying to gain as much space as possible. And right now, because the point has been taken, if you kill someone here, they will literally respawn 10 meters that way. So it's not a big deal. If you killed them when the payload was a couple of meters back and you killed them here, they're going to respawn all the way back in the first point. They're going to be fucking ages away, and it's going to take them another 10-15 seconds just to travel to get to where they need to be fighting. So there's a big difference in value when you get a kill in one location, when you get a kill in another. And so this Mei is just throwing away a very powerful ultimate, which is Blizzard. Blizzard is a really, really good ult. They could have used this if they really needed to make sure that their team can actually get out of the bad spawns. Also worth mentioning when talking about Hollywood, that Hollywood is a map with bad spawns galore. This happens quite often on this map, where you will take this point and you literally have a easy pickings for at least a couple of heroes. I think Widowmaker showed us this quite nicely with her Infrasight. So you can see the payload has ticked over, and you can see there are targets still stuck in the previous spawn. So these guys have to cross in front of our team just to be able to reunite with the rest of their team. And as such, we can get tons of value killing this Lucio, killing this D.Va, killing this Winston, and that's going to basically guarantee us a couple of meters up through the important area of the choke where this Mei is not going to be able to do anything. We could go up and over this if we really want to, or we could just rocket past the Blizzard. And like, I don't think she even gets anyone. Like, literally the Mercy shoots her to death. You might not want to tell your friends about that one. To quote the healer herself. And honestly, we can afford to probably be a little bit more aggressive here, actually. It's a good idea just to try and confirm as many kills as possible. Then you pull back, try and get 3 people. I really don't like the fact that we only have 1 person on the payload right now, actually. We should have 3, because we're trying to gain ground before the enemy team can actually regroup as 6. So we have an advantage now in that we killed 1 or 2, or they used a bunch of resources, and as such they can't actually fight us properly anymore, so they're busy trying to scramble for a retreat using their cooldowns just to get back to where they need to. We want to be gaining as much space as possible during that time. So we should try and have 3 people with 1 or 2 ranging forward, maybe to try and punish 1 or 2 bits and pieces forward, but that's always a little bit tricky. Looks like Reaper manages, though, to find something. So where did Reaper even go? Did he take the high route? Oh, he did. I like it. But this is good play by the Reaper. He should be probably either one of the people sticking around. No, he just runs in. He just runs in, and the rest of the enemy team just gather around him. Just come hither. Enemy team should not be doing this. Spacing, basically. If you aren't aware, spacing is a military term based on how you space out individuals to avoid, you know, your entire unit getting blown up by a single grenade, for example. There's a very important lesson to sort of be learnt about spacing, where if you've played any kind of military simulator and a grenade lands in the middle of your unit and everybody dies, that's a good example of poor spacing. Spacing is also a concept that does somewhat exist in Overwatch as well, where you generally don't want to have everyone, for example, piled around the same corner, especially against heroes like Reaper. Against Reinhardt is a good example. Against Junkrat, fittingly, you want to be more spaced out for the grenades. So yeah, Reaper, not a friendly guy. Avoid the hugs, avoid the cuddles. It looks like the enemy team, while scrambling for their defense, sort of just decided to bunch up and didn't react at all, apparently, to a Reaper just running into the front line and killing them. I was expecting the Reaper to do something perhaps extremely clever, which is to use the time that the team had, going all the way back, because why not? You know, a clever thing for Reaper to do here would be perhaps just to teleport up here, run around here, and then while they're trying to gather and they think they're safe, then he can drop down and get a really cool ultimate while people are pushing up this way. For example, that would be a really, really nice, neat little flank route for Reaper to do, while there's a little bit of downtime here because the enemy team's trying to scramble and regather. Instead, he just runs in the front and ultimates and gets away with it. Against an Ana, against a D.Va, against all this stuff, against a Winston. He gets away. Against a Lucio. Like, Lucio can right-click and solve a Reaper ult, but apparently this doesn't happen in Platinum. So yeah. Feels bad, man. Coffee. D.Va's dead. You get the point. Against a Mei? There's a Mei! I know she just used a wall, but like, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen this way. Reaper's getting this much value hurts me. Because I try and tell people Reaper is bad for a number of reasons. First and foremost, that you can't just run in and kill everyone. So seeing Reapers running in and kill everyone makes me feel bad. This is a complete desperation by the enemy team, but they kind of need it. We do a good job just isolating that, shutting it down. Actually, let's try and do a little bit of D.Va coaching. I want to just go back and keep an eye on how are we managing our defense matrix. Because D.Va's actually a very meta hero right now, so this is probably worth just keeping an eye on. Because to me, what separates a good D.Va from a bad D.Va is how are you using your defense matrix? How are you positioning it to cover people who are trying to do things? So, for example, you can help this Reaper try and do stuff if he does want to just run in on the front line. As this Reaper pokes out, that's not a bad indication for you just to put defense matrix up. Because what you're doing then is you're basically creating a corridor that Reaper can run forward in, do a lot of damage. And if you think about how much damage you can output as D.Va, when we're shooting, we're relatively slow, and our damage drop-off past like 5 meters is just as ridiculous as Reaper's. So Reaper, who can run forward a little bit faster than us while still shooting, can do more damage than us. So if you think about like team damage as a whole, what will do more damage? Us and Reaper walking out this way and firing? And then Reaper having to pretty much immediately juke back in, and then us having to pretty much immediately juke back in because we're taking damage. or Reaper running out and having a bit more free time to shoot for that little bit longer. So you're trying to establish basically attack corridors and attack paths for people to do stuff. And sure, it's not going to help against the Winston, but with current Reaper, I'm not sure if this is post-patch or pre-patch, because I can't see Reaper's vision. Actually, if we look super closely, maybe we can figure it out. Reaper picks up a health pack. This might be pre-patch, I don't know. It's impossible to tell. I don't think there's any UI element that's changed that'll make it super clear either. But yeah, like, with current Reaper especially, if he's just fighting a Winston one-on-one and there's no other damage that can come in and hurt him, which there won't be because there's a defense matrix, he can just out DPS, out heal per second a Winston shooting him. Basically, if he's at point blank. It's pretty much impossible for Winston to win that fight. So if you just enable this Reaper to run into this Winston, he can get a quick kill on this Winston, no problem. That means that Reinhardt doesn't have to charge, for example. That means, like, let's imagine a hypothetical world where the enemy team's Ana is actually decent. And so, basically, this Reinhardt charging off here means that this heal grenade lands properly, though we would have been in position to catch it. But let's say it lands properly, and then their team uses tac visor or an Ana visor, or somehow gets past us, and then starts getting kills, and it all goes horribly wrong, for example. But we're just creating opportunities. And even in instances like this, where you're seeing the Reaper just running in, finding spaces just to put the right mouse button over the top of him, so that, for example, if you block a sleep dart on an ulting Reaper, then Reaper gets more value. But yeah, we've no reason to use defense matrix at the moment because there's nothing that can really threaten us. We should just be staying on the point, doing shitloads of damage to this Winston if he tries to contest the point, basically. So I'm fine with us doing that. Fine with us booping this back. Fine with us shooting into the back of this. We hear the sights going off, and then we're just putting our defense matrix up. And honestly, I would say that we want to be staying more in front of this guy. So I'd say that that charge is a little bit of a mistake. We managed to get most of it though, and I'm relatively okay with that. We just put our defense matrix between the target and the damage he's trying to do. I'd definitely say the charge needed to go just more this way. The simple logic being that if Soldier 76 is shooting anyone, we want him shooting at us. Because A, if we get blown out of the mech, then we can usually get it back. And B, if he's shooting at squishy targets, especially nano boosted, he's going to kill and remove those targets completely. So we don't want that to happen. Being fair, the Reinhardt should have probably been a little bit snappier on the ultimate as well, just to help clear that off. Or just to help get rid of that ultimate. Get the Winston for that. How necessary was this? I'm relatively okay with us doing this. I would have liked to see the... Oh no, the Reaper gets pushed away. Honestly, the Reaper should be able to get that D.Va now. We should probably go and support that Reaper, actually. Like, because if you think about how well and how effectively we can stop Mei doing things, we can't really do that. And if she's getting healed, then our damage output is not going to be high enough to ever finish her off, because she has so many defensive cooldowns. But we saw earlier... Like, if you know, we should be watching as stuff like this is happening. We can see that this Reaper's been booped off. You can see that this guy's on like 2 hit points. If you go and follow this Reaper, you know, after picking our mech back up, give him some cover so he can just afford to shoot away, or even just help kill the D.Va, that he can get back into the fight as well and be providing all that meaty Reaper damage that we do so love, apparently. Looks like Widowmaker is starting to come alive as well. Widowmaker very good when the third point gets to this. She's a lot weaker when you're fighting around that first corner, just because the enemy team is more happy just to jump on you and everyone's sort of unified together. But Widowmaker excels when you start getting into this position, when you basically have the team fighting on the payload here in this area, and Widowmaker can just stand far in the back, taking her time shooting anything trying to contest. It's very, very effective. And if you are having extended fights on the payload, having a Widowmaker or an Ana just standing back here and just shooting away is extremely effective. And as you can see, she's just occupying the Winston just by existing. So now Winston isn't here to contest us anymore. And even if, like, apparently the Widow outplayed the Winston, doesn't matter too much.
Didn't even need to use right.
It's a fairly clean push. I'm still, the thing that confuses me most, it seems to have worked out regardless, but is the swap to D.Va here. I don't disagree with it in terms of, like, if we were totally safe in the knowledge that, oh, we are going to win this fight, then sure, swap to D.Va. But this doesn't look like a super safe one fight to me, because part of that is because Pharah's effectiveness drops off when we get into that third point, right? It's a lot more claustrophobic until you start getting outdoors, and then when you get outdoors, it's just a big open skybox, so there's not much cover for you to play around with. So D.Va will become much more effective in pushing through that corridor effectively. But in that second point area, we were incredibly strong, especially if they have swapped to the Mei. Like, you can see the enemy team lineup. Sure, the Soldier's there to counter us, but we're a Pharmacy with a Widowmaker. Like, it's so hard for the Soldier to beat Pharmacy and Zenyatta and a Reaper coming in from the front line that, honestly, we could have afforded to stay on the Pharah. I'd say that if, you know, you're shy about the Soldier 76 existing and, oh, Soldier is a counter to Pharah, so therefore I should swap. Soldier is not a counter to Pharmacy. Soldier is a counter to Solar Pharah, sure, but not a counter to Pharmacy. I think it's one of the huge myths that I think is slowly fading away, thankfully. People have steadily realized that a lone Soldier 76 cannot beat out a Pharmacy combo. It used to be the case where people were like, Soldier, why aren't you killing Pharah? And it's like, well, she's got a mousey up her butthole 24/7. No wonder I'm not fucking killing her. Yeah, you generally need like a Zenyatta and a damage damp Soldier of your own or something insane just to beat that combo. It's kind of ridiculous. D.Va is, as Sir Chaox has said in chat, the better Pharmacy counter. Part of the reason why I was dubious for it as well is that they sort of like, they have Mei Winston, for example, which we do nothing about. We could shut down the Soldier, sure, but if the team didn't win the next fight, then we would have actually been in a bit of a tricky position. But we moved to defense, and as you can see, the defense, judging by the time bank, is a lot longer.